Welcome back. Canada lost one of its former prime ministers last week. Brian Mulroney died Thursday at the age of 84. He helped shape Canada and build international relationships with the United States and Mexico. Let's bring in the host of the Charbon Report, Michael Charbon, to tell us a little bit more. Michael, tell us about his legacy. Brian Mulroney, he was one that could build relationships, but he also had quite a role within Canada for a number of years.
He was the 18th Prime Minister of Canada and a true conservative. He was described as a transformational figure in Canada's modern era. He was really classy. He was respected internationally. He was a true diplomatic politician. Mulroney was actually friends with Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush and regarded by both of them as a trusted confidant and a friend. So much so, actually, John, that both Reagan and Bush asked Mulroney to speak at their eulogies. In 1984, Mulroney won the largest majority in Canadian elections with a landslide victory for the Conservatives, and he worked very closely with George W. Bush to fight Saddam Hussein. He engaged the U.S. in the acid rain law. He was part of the Montreal Protocol to phase out the ozone depletion with propellants and the controversial free trade agreement. So Mulroney supported, in addition, Nelson Mandela to defeat apartheid. He supported Israel, independence of the Ukraine. He was a true conservative, John, and a voice that will be truly missed in Canada.
Also NAFTA, right? He was behind the North American Free Trade Agreement, which ultimately was major between Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
I mean, this was a politician. A personal anecdote: about 10 years ago, I was involved in Canadian politics. I was creating and moderating a provincial and federal all-candidates debate, and I went to a conservative fundraiser with a prominent lawyer, and he said that he could introduce me to Brian Mulroney. I approached Mr. Mulroney, he extended his hand and greeted me by my first name and talked to me about what I had done in politics. I was in awe. This was a man who was a true people's prime minister. He apologized to the Japanese people in Canada for the internment in World War II. He created the Immigration and Refugee Status Board in Canada. I mean, he was a man who made a difference, and he was respected internationally, which is something that Canadian government could use now. And finally, John, he said that he attended a speech with Pierre Poilievre, who is the current conservative leader, and said that it was one of the best speeches he had ever heard. And in the same breath, to the politicians, he said, Canada should respect and admire Justin Trudeau for what he did for the Canadian people, both financially and medically during the COVID experience.
And he did leave the office with a little bit of controversy surrounding his name. Maybe talk to us about that.
Well, the Airbus controversy was something there was some allegations of being paid influence. He actually sued the government and won over $2 million. And then several years later, there was a controversial person who was charged with some untoward elements. And he said that he paid Mulroney over $300,000. And there was some allegations of impropriety, an embarrassing moment on behalf of Brian Mulroney, but it's not something that he's going to be remembered by. Brian Mulroney made way more positive influences, and again, respected by politicians. Even journalists would call him to be able to get insight. Brian Mulroney was a true politician, a respected international figure, and someone that is a true loss to Canada.
Let's shift gears now. You've got Prime Minister Trudeau now in office, and he has some competition. We talk about his competition weekly. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Where do things stand as of this week? What did we miss over the last 7 days?
So 65% of Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party is 44 years of age or younger. And the poll basically said, that was released this week, that Canadians aged between 30 and 44 years of age are 41% in the Conservatives and 21% in the Liberals. So basically the quote was that Conservatives can secure the support of young, economically insecure middle-class voters. Poilievre is 44 and Trudeau is 52. So young voters are abandoning the Liberals to go to the Conservatives. Think of house prices here in Toronto. The average house price is over $1 million. In Canada, you need 20% as a down payment. That's $200,000 you need to have in cash. So at a 5% interest, that's about $3,500 a month. Then Canada invoked what's called the mortgage stress test, which means that the bank applies an additional 2%. That means the bank evaluates your ability to pay 7% interest, almost $4,700 a month, to have your combined income, your credit card debt, property taxes, etc. This is becoming a huge problem for the Liberals and the young voters, and potentially a younger Conservative Party membership is going to change the election potentially here in Canada.
It's interesting. A lot of those similar issues we're seeing here in the United States, with the polls showing the young voters now favoring former President Trump. We have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Michael Charbon. We appreciate that. That's going to do it here for Sunday Report. Thank you so much for watching. Stay with us, though. Sunday Agenda starts right now with Lydia Serrana.